Actors and actresses, what is filming a sex scene like? I was in a theater show where I had to sit next to a girl and feel her boob. The second I read it in the script I started feeling anxious about it. When I was talking to the actress about the scene she seemed totally cool with everything, so for the whole 2-week run of the show she got her boob groped every day and twice on Wednesdays and Sundays. My first time kissing on stage. On rehearsal, I miss the colleague's face. Every day I pray to forget that moment. Amateur actor. Have done exactly one of these. It was very awkward and quite cold, but it was a very small production, so I wasn't pressured into anything I wasn't comfortable with. Former actor and now director here. It's only as awkward as the people involved are. Typically everyone is professional, mature, and understands that this is a behavior their character would engage in, so they want to portray it as best as they can. Most approach it very professionally. As a director I get rid of all non-essential people on set, but make sure that there are enough around that it doesn't feel creepily empty. Anybody who I feel would make it weird isn't allowed. Communication is key. I always let the actors set their own boundaries. I describe my ideal scenario, then let the actors agree to it or offer a compromise. I let them know that at any point they can change their mind. There are tons of little skin-colored pasties, adhesive panty strips, and dong socks for the actors to wear. Sometimes people get turned on. It's only natural, and in that case we takes breaks to chill out and then resume later. TLDR, it's only awkward if the people involved are. Please tell me dong sock is the industry standard term. As long as you and the other person are acting professionally, it's just work really. Funny story, I had to get a BJ during scene in a live show. The show was site specific and took place in and around 3 scaffolds built inside the space, so the audience could stand basically anywhere to watch the scenes unfold. During the final scene of the first half, I climb up one of the scaffolding and the scene goes on. Pay the women and get the deed done, not a bother in the world. During the interval I check my phone and I have a text from my mate. I don't know what was funnier, your face while getting your dong sucked or your nanny and Ma's faces looking up at you. Couldn't look my nanny in the face when the show was over. I'm an amateur actor, but legit enough to have an IMDb page I didn't set up myself. Have done sex scenes. They are incredibly awkward and a tiny bit sexy. One time, the director was just off camera, reading out instructions line by line, which felt incredibly strange. Like having a parent with you in the bedroom. A parent who had written a script for you and your girlfriend to follow, but didn't trust the two of you could get it done without live instructions. Another time, the dude the actress was dating placed himself in my eye line, so that I locked eyes with him every time I kissed her. Had to tell him to go stand somewhere else. Other than that, it's like every other scene. Hopefully you trust your director and can forget about the cameras for a moment. What's a nice niche to fit? I was shooting a short non-explicit sex scene for a short film while being so freaking sick. I had to take breaks from shooting a film to go shot diarrhea out of my futile weak body. Thankfully everyone was professional about it. The shooting itself was quite interesting. I was laying on my back, the other person sitting on me, both of us pants on, camera operator standing above us. So there were 3 layers of people on the bed. We were grinding under the sheets only when it was necessary, for a couple of seconds, maybe 3 times. Then we were shooting details of our hands locking into one another, our faces, running fingers through hair, and so the voiceover was the most fun part. We had a blast syncing our RS and oh goddess with the footage. Actor here. I'm more of a character-y type, so intimate scenes for me are few and far between, but do still happen. Communication is really key, especially on some low budget and TV shoots where you literally meet the person you're about to be intimate with while they're setting up the lights for the scene. One TV show in particular, I had to be in the sock, basically a flesh-colored thong that covers Johnson & Company but little else, while my scene partner was topless W nipple covers and a flesh-colored thong. We had little time to prep, so it was change, then hop into bed, block the scene with the director, and then talk through comfort amongst ourselves before the shot began. I was very sure to make it clear that if my acting partner had any qualms or hiccups during the scene, she was relatively new, that she should stop, and that was that. Also, I talk through the choreography because it's important to not stray from what has been discussed for obvious reasons, beat by beat, to make sure we were on the same page. This is just common courtesy, and for myself extremely important for my scene partner to know that I have their back as well as my own. As for being enjoyable, if you think thrusting two tight thongs under covers close to each other while wondering how your pale backside is going to look on film, then I guess this is your kink. Actor here. It's very not sexy, instead it's highly choreographed and rehearsed. I'm going to touch you here, you'll move there, we kiss here, with hopefully an intimacy coordinator. Non-union films will not always have one. So it's important to learn how to advocate for yourself to the director and your acting partner if anything feels uncomfortable. The goal is to have it completely down pat with your partner so that there is no improvisation. Usually it begins with both actors telling the other their no-fly zones. I always say, please don't touch my groin, or touch between my butt cheeks. It's awkward, but can be sort of a funny icebreaker. Once no-fly zones are established, the intimacy coordinator works with the actor's director to establish what the choreo will be. Then the shooting can take hours, even for a 2-minute scene, if they just want a master, a close-up, and the reverse, which is standard. Each shot can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours before they begin rolling, and for you have to do multiple takes. A minimum would be 3 takes for each shot, but almost always it's closer to 7-15 depending on the director and DP. One of the interesting things about film acting too is perspective and what looks good on camera. Next time you're watching a scene in a car, take a second to look at how the characters are positioned, how their seats are positioned. It's usually not in any way how a human being would ever sit, but it reads as totally normal on camera. This is the same for intimacy scenes. You might be in a super awkward position, not sexy at all, but it reads on camera as super sexy. Last but not least, try getting in the mood when 1, wearing a dance belt, and 2, there's anywhere from 50 people watching. Yes, all this. It's weird and technical, usually you're in odd physical positions for camera angles, lighting, so you are pretty uncomfortable. And you're naked, mostly naked in front of a whole bunch of people you wouldn't normally choose to be naked in front of. Not sexy at all. It can get quite hilarious though, if you have a good scene partner and crew. Theater actor here. So a bit of a different perspective. The show that I was rehearsing for before the pandemic featured intimate moments, albeit not full-on sex scenes, and we had an intimacy coordinator. On one hand, they act like a fight choreographer, mapping out the moves so that way they are the same every time. No one drops any surprises on their partner. On the other, they act as sort reps or liaisons for the actors. They will discuss with the director what their vision is for the scene and try to replicate that while maintaining their actors' boundaries. So before any physical work starts, they lead conversations between partners about what their no-goes are and what is okay. They will also help establish a tap-in between partners, which is a little shared gesture, like a high five or handshake, between actors that indicates that what they are about to be doing is work and separate from them as people. Tap-in sounds like a really good idea. It's very common in martial arts where sparring partners touch gloves before a bout. It helps put your head in the right frame and shows your respect for your partner. I was reading this and suddenly remembered I had done this for a short film in college. It was literally the least erotic thing ever. There were at least 5 other people in the room. Lights, sound, camera, director, the girl's roommates etc. And you are just trying to remember what you are supposed to do, while acting naturally. Super awkward. This wasn't a sex scene as much as an implied sex scene. From what I understand, there's usually an intimacy choreographer to make sure all goes well. Kinda like a fight choreographer, but ideally no one gets punched or thrown from a train. Hey, I just can't see M unless there's a traffic accident involved. Most major films today use an intimacy coordinator to help direct these scenes. They discuss boundaries with the actors and plan out the action beforehand so everyone is comfortable and knows what to expect. Theater actor here. All I know is that there is a special intimacy training you have to take. If you get paired up with a person that may or may not like, you cannot express a non-professional gesture, like saying yes. Also, you have to protect yourself from directors. Not saying directors are malice, but they tend to overstep what is comfortable for an actor. Oh, and you need 24 or 48 notice prior to performing an intimate act. My cousin's first every stage performance, he had to kiss the main leading girl and then slap her on the ass and then leave the house. He kissed her and then slapped her on the ass as scripted, and she farted and both of their personal mics picked it up and amplified it through the whole theater. That's hilarious, but as soon as I saw my cousin I immediately thought Alabama. Actor here. Stage and film. There's a certain awkwardness to get over with your partner at first, but an intimacy coach can help create a process that is safe and comfortable for all involved. The actual scenes themselves depend on what content is involved. I've done scenes with an A shirt on and under sheets where it was actually a bit of a challenge because you have to make it look like you're having sex. So there's a lot more accentuating of movements to make it look realistic. I've not needed to do the super intense fully naked sex scenes, but camera angles help regardless of how clothed you are. Ultimately, I'm a trained professional and it's just another scene, so I figure out what needs to happen and do it, while seeming authentic. Made a film in college with people from my dorm. I only really knew the director well. I was the lead actor and some girl on the floor below mine was cast as the lead female role. Before we did any shooting, all the actors with big parts did a table read together, went through the script and suggested changes to dialogue, acting cues and whatnot to make it flow better and feel more realistic, or to change something to make it more comfortable for the actors. When it came time for our sex scene, which was just making out and beginning to strip off clothing falling on top of one another, we were at the set location, which was some girl's apartment, and only the lead actress, the director, and myself were on set. We talked through the scene one last time, made some clarifications on things and sat down to do it. It didn't really feel like much when filming it. We had to kiss a few times to get different angles in case our director friend wanted a different shot, and she kept forgetting her line immediately after the first kiss, which was funny at first but got annoying after the 5th or 6th time. But we filmed it and then he yelled cut. We laughed about actually getting the shot, and moved on to the next scene. This is not a sex scene, but when I was at university I was in a show that called for me to be topless. Major plot point, except a kid on the run crew was a minor so they legally couldn't. There were entire rehearsals and multiple costume fittings trying to figure out a way to rig a backless and strapless bra and how to position me on a quarter thrust stage so it was invisible and I was believably topless. I ended up with this weird flesh-colored silicone harness thing, and my scene partner, who was supposed to be incredibly turned on by my stripping, said he could barely keep a straight face because it looked so ridiculous. Another time I was brutally raped on stage and one of my scene partners got a huge boner one night, which was the most uncomfortable thing I have ever experienced. Jesus. I instinctively downvoted because that last part sounds awful and had to go back like wait, no, this is a good contribution to the conversation even though it's uncomfortable as all heck. Funhouse actually talked about this recently in a podcast. Imagine how awkward it would be to hardly know someone, hold their hand while walking down the street and trying to remember your lines. Now take all that, expect you're mostly naked, in a small room, sweaty and there are 20 people watching you, and in Keanu Reeves' case, the woman is the director's wife. But the woman is also Ana de Armas and the director is Eli Roth. Two pretty chill up for anything actors. In my experience, not very awesome. Unfortunately, I had to perform a rape scene, which as you can imagine was very uncomfortable. It's very rehearsed, but coming out of it is very disturbing. I found myself regularly asking the actor I was working with if she was okay because the subject matter was so grotesque. A lot of actors state how they want to stay in character as long as possible on set, but in this case, you can't wash the scene off fast enough. Not really sex scenes, but I've had kissing maquillage scenes. They suck, but a lot of what actors do just plain out sucks. I had a scene with a lesbian. She was not very into me, which is fair, but she was also a very new actress so she couldn't really bring herself into me. I tried to make her as comfortable as possible. Outside of the scene we were always joking and laughing and just having a good time, but that maquillage scene really put her on edge. The director had someone come in and coach her. It took the every shooting day just for this one scene. To be fair, it's a very important scene, so it had to be right. Had a scene with an actress who had a boyfriend. who also thought it was a grand freaking idea to bring said boyfriend on set. You should never do this. If it's a union production, he's getting the boot and you're gonna be in hot water. It's a very intimate scene where she rubs on my a lot. I'm going up her thighs and we end with a kiss. Honestly, everything went pretty well, but her boyfriend just standing on the sidelines watching was more than weird for me. Had a scene with someone who was engaged. Honestly went really. We were both able to turn the intimacy of on and off on a dime. We laugh and joke between making out. Her fiance actually ended up with a role playing a character opposite of us. This scene didn't happen making out, just flirting and whatnot, so it was funny for all of us. I'm an actor, recently starting work. Haven't done a sex scene though. From what I've heard it's OFC awkward, but both actors focus on being professional to get the scene done. Depending on who you're acting with, it can be a funny experience, especially if your co-star is also a friend. It's easier, I guess. In the end, it's up to the director to make the actors comfortable. I heard a story that one director made all the crew on set take their clothes off to make the actors feel comfortable. Acting is weird. Paul Verhoeven did that for the co-ed shower scene in Starship Troopers. I can't find it now, but I read an interview with Jennifer Connelly who talked about choreography in sex scenes and how important it was. She also said her worst experience was on Mulholland Falls, as the director gave no direction and told her and John Malkovich to just do what they wanted. Not NSW at all, but I was in a show where I had to kiss another actress. Nothing fancy, but it was supposed to be this romantic gesture where I tilted her back and had this moment. At first the actress was cool with it. We practiced it a few times in rehearsals and it went well. One day, about a week prior to the show, she pulled me aside. Come to find out, her boyfriend at the time was not comfortable with this much kissing. She was a close friend of mine, but there were no romantic feelings, something he had a hard time believing. So out of respect, we tried to alter the scene. We ended up using hand placement on my face and part of my shoulder to hide our lips and give the illusion of kissing, and really just rubbed noses together while I counted to 3 and broke apart. It ended up being a huge hit and the audience had no idea. Even our director wasn't convinced we weren't kissing. The actress's boyfriend was quite pleased though. In high school I was Christian and Cyrano de Bergerac. I had to kiss Roxanne 4 times, and her boyfriend played Cyrano. He came to watch our kissing rehearsals sometimes. I wanted to die a little bit, but kissing her was actually really fun when he wasn't watching, so IDK. Brad Pitt here. I personally like filming sex scenes because I'm very attractive and usually the actress is very attractive as well. Make sure you buy my new movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on Blu-ray. Thanks for the input, Brad. I'll be sure to check it out. Just a couple of overpaid, beautiful people dry humping while Gail from Crafts Services is watching from behind the director. Awkward and hilarious. I find the rehearsal is worse. They try to minimize the torture by shooting on a closed set, which pretty much means only the bare essentials are permitted to be there. For example, actors, director, cinematographer, one hair and makeup artist, instead of potentially 100s of crew standing around. They are often planned well in advance, but this can make the lead up to it more anxiety inducing. It's not sexy. If you don't laugh, you might cry. Boners happen, but not as often as you think. Modesty patches and socks are a real thing. The modesty patch, for a lady, is a bit like a sanitary pad. It sort of sticks to your lady garden and stays without needing clothes to hold in place. The dong sock is like a flesh-colored stocking that goes over the man's nether rod. Some of them can be secured to themselves, others they wear like a G-string. There should never be skin-to-skin contact in that area. Also, that classic point of view shot looking up at the actor pumping away is more often than not the actor bouncing around on an aerobics ball, not the other person. Movie magic, baby. When I was 13 I had to perform a somewhat sexual scene with an adult actor. He was around 26. It was a student horror film about a pedophile. I got to know the adult actor 4 weeks before and we filmed that scene last, so I became comfortable with him. The cameraman couldn't even watch. I remember he was like, "Director's name, you're going to have to do this." Everyone was way more uncomfortable than me and my acting partner. We kept laughing during takes. I honestly just remember having fun with it and being confused why the crew was acting weird. I thought it was funny when he acted crazy and I got to debut my crying skills. That was probably my favorite film I worked on as a kid. So yeah, filming awkward scenes can actually be pretty fun with the right cast. A lot of actors/actresses have affairs during the production. Did any couple ever say, whatever, let's just have sex for real, we are doing it in our trailers anyway? Obligatory, not me but my cousin. He has remarked that sometimes you have to do the sound aspects of the scene in a sound booth and it is very odd. Oblig, not an actor, but I work in theater and was the intimacy captain on a play I worked on last year, so hopefully I can give a bit of insight. In my experience working with the movement intimacy director and the cast, everything has to be carefully considered. The actor's comfort in the scene is paramount, and the logistics are worked from there. A lot of it can be cheated with the viewing angle of the audience. We spent quite a bit of time in our closed rehearsal sessions working out just what the audience would be able to see and how much distance we could keep between the actors whilst making it look believable. If an actor wasn't comfortable with how something was being staged, we'd try out other options until something clicked. We had an intimacy protocol document that all the cast and crew had to read and consent to. That stipulated how we would run everything and all the safeguarding measures we were putting in place. During the run of the play we had to review the sex scenes before every performance to make sure that the actors involved were still comfortable with it and to make sure they were doing the choreography as it was set. If you have any questions I'll do my best to answer. Not me but a teacher told me it's really uncomfortable. You don't enjoy it cause there are lights and cameras recording your every move, but it is an actor's job to act like you are enjoying it. You question your every move and it's not as great as you thought it will be, much like every dream job. I've done one of these. I was playing a dominatrix. No, it was not a porno, just a funny yet cheekily sexy bit, and the actor opposite me played a geeky, total virgin that had no clue what to do with this leather-clad mace-wielding woman. It was very scripted. We each said what our okays and not okays were, and we went for it. Overall, it was pretty fun. We joked in between takes about how our families probably shouldn't be invited to this film's premiere. He was married, which I think made me more comfortable in a way, knowing he was fully committed to someone and, hopefully, wouldn't see my acting as a potential thing. I also got to keep the costume since it was tailored to me. So now I have a dominatrix getup if I ever need it. I would assume awkward as frick. Cameras on you, a group of people watching you. Your performance is being openly judged. They probably are dating people so have to deal with jealousy. You could be not attracted to them at all and have to kiss, touch and probably straddle them would be fairly cringe inducing. Knowing millions of people will see it including your family friends. One of the cameramen is masturbating. An actor friend of mine once made the comment that one part of Perfect Blue was pretty spot on as far as awkwardness goes. I haven't watched it in a while, but I remember that part being horrific. Different actors will demand different treatment. For example, closed sets, minimal crew, etc. Different directors will approach it differently. With some it's highly technical, as you are still required to hit certain marks for the camera setup, where the light focus composition is just right. Then it's just take after take with some super bored camera guys and grips and movers and prop stylists standing about, looking at you but only seeing whatever their expertise is. For example, is her hair in her face? Can you see the label on the pillowcase? Etc. Others will let you just have at it, with the idea they want more spontaneity and longer takes over a perfect shot exactly as they imagined it. I was mostly in TVCs versus movies or shows, so it was definitely more the former than the latter, as it was always about the product. For example, capturing the tag on the bum of the jeans in perfect focus before they're taken off. It can actually be very conservative, with little nipple covers, etc. Or it might be boobs and bums ahoy, with the knowledge that the camera angles and lighting shadows will ensure it ends up feeling tasteful or funny or romantic or whatever it's meant to end up being. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.